Where's the backup? I don't need no damn backup, ladies and gentlemen, because this is the questionnaire. Yeah, and you know that means I am the unknown factor, aka that Wade Wilson of hip hop. And you know, I just gotta say, this particular quest, it's been a pleasure. There's been many a gentleman on the show, many a great lady. So many different people that we've had on this show that were just great people. You know, from the last episode with Scott to Doug, who you just seen his one of his books right there that he was courteous enough to send to me. Shout out to Doug Wagner for that. But previous episode with Scott was, man, see, I feel bad like my guest did on the TikTok he just made, because I'm like, I'm gonna screw up his last name, even though he was just on the show. But you know, some of these comic book creators have names that make my bloody head hurt, right? But this particular guest, he's got like a really easy name, but I think he is definitely probably has one of the more physically strenuous jobs out of anyone that we've had on the show, except maybe Andy, because you know he's a pro wrestler as well as a comic book artist and writer. I think Andy might have him, but I think that's about it. I think short of that, yeah, he definitely has the most physically strenuous job. I mean, he's got to play a damn king. He's got to play a bear on coke. He's got to play a dude trying to help some dark asshole take over the universe. He's got to step in and do things for some phenomenal actors, so they didn't want to pay that rate. They wanted to have somebody stand in, and I totally understand that on Disney's part. Totally makes sense. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, Henry Allen in the Allan Henry in the house. How'd I flip your damn? I was like, his name's so easy. His name's so easy. I'm gonna flip it backwards. That's what I'm gonna do, man. I was on a roll till I tried to say your name, Alan.
Well, you know, it's two first names, man. It's firsty. So that's just to mess with people.
Oh, so that's like a stage name, just so you can dick with everybody when you send in your credentials, huh? Is that what it is?
No, no, it's not. It's not.
What's your
It's not.
ID say, sir?
My ID is much longer. It has my two Maori middle names in it. So it's like I've got one of those long indigenous names. So I for the ease of most legal forms and legal entities, I just stick with Allan Henry. It's a lot easier. Um, but honestly, dude, the amount of times that people have said Henry Allen, because that is a name, right?
I don't know if it's as Googleable as yours, though. I don't know what.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what you would pull up if you typed in Henry Allen. I do definitely know if you type in Allan Henry, it pulls up a laundry list of the things you do. Now, I do want to point out you were the first individual on the show that doesn't make comics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were the first guest. Now, in saying that, it's not like you're not ingrained within the comic book community as far as from going to conventions, as well as you've. I mean, did you play Steppenwolf? You know,
I did. I
which
did. Yeah.
which was the main villain in the now defunct DC universe that I
Yeah.
so wish they could have fixed in some capacity, but we won't get into all of that. Um, I wish the best to James Gunn in his future endeavors in trying to bring an actual DC universe to life, because I want a Lobo film. I do. Can't lie, right? I mean, that's just true. But right off the bat, man, I got to know, in all the roles you've done, I look at everything, and there's two, and I'm like, I bet those had a lot of similarities. So tell me, am I right? Were there similarities between playing Cokey the Bear and King Kong?
uh, there were some similarities. Some.
I mean, just some,
Uh,
yeah.
some. Yeah. Some. It's not many though. Not many. Like they were relatively different. Uh, Cokey was based on a like had to be as close to an actual black bear, whereas King Kong is a very much idealized version of what this apex gorilla might be.
Man, in that film, I'm sorry, you played the weaker link.
And Godzilla vs Kong.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh look, no, dude, I 100%. Kong got his
Okay.
ass handed to him twice in that film.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
well, and I mean, we had this past discussion with Tony
Mm.
Fleece, who you can check out that past quest, wherever you guys are at. Listen to this, but it's an unfair fight unless you like gave Kong a plasma gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you give Kong a
Yeah.
plasma gun, I'll be like, all right,
Yeah.
I,
That'd even it up a bit.
yeah. This is an even bet now. I don't know who's gonna
Mm.
win, but when you put him against the giant lizard thing that can breathe atomic breath, man, that just seems really unfair. And like I said, dude, I've watched pretty much everything you've been in. Actually, looking through, which is kind of crazy. Well, I haven't watched the new Mulan. I'll be real honest. I'm not. Never was a big Disney guy until they bought Star Wars and Marvel, and then I'm like, fuck, I guess I'm a Disney guy.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Ain't that screwy to realize? Like Disney made a bunch of people Disney people when they bought those two
Yeah.
companies.
Yeah, the House of Mouse is just so much bigger now, eh?
I wonder sometimes if that. Well, we're not gonna get into that, man. I don't want to cause you no problems later since you work with them, so I'm just gonna keep my and close that one up, man. But I want to know what initiative got you in to where you're doing what you're doing with motion capture, which is something that's.
Mm.
I mean, obviously you've seen that technology develop.
Mhm.
Right, and change
Yeah.
in the time that you've used it. What initially made you want to get into that and do that part of acting, which has now become very, very prevalent within film?
Mm. Mhm. It started when I was kind of when I was doing my acting training here in New Zealand. I Before that I had always been a really imaginative kid. I was very physical. I legitimately wanted to try and be a cartoon character when I was a kid. So I grew up kind of trying to move the way that my favorite cartoon characters would move or sound like them or do the things. And I had a cool group of friends and we would reenact like scenes from our favorite movies and stuff. And that kind of continued into my teenage years and doing things like sport and dance and acting and stunts and martial arts and like parkour and just being a dumb teenager and jumping off cliffs and climbing trees. And then when I when I when I kind of got into my 20s and started training here in New Zealand, I I mean, living in Wellington, New Zealand is a really great place to live if you want to get involved with this sort of thing because this is where it all happens. Like it's where the majority of film happens. It's where the biggest motion capture performance capture studio in New Zealand is. So while I was here, Peter Jackson was filming King Kong, his version, and I had an opportunity to go to the studio and see Andy Serkis doing Kong and kind of exploring Kong in the mocap suit. And that was the moment where I realized that not only was this art form possible, but it was also accessible. Because growing up, movies were movies, right? And I was like, I don't think I'm going to be a Hollywood movie star anytime soon. I was like a poor kid from a little town in a tiny country at the bottom of the planet, and it was, growing up, it was very, it was pretty blatant that that was kind of the bleak outlook that you had. But then, of course, moving out of my small town, out of that kind of small town bubble and getting into a much larger city like Wellington, which is more cosmopolitan, it's a bit more urban, there's more going on, more opportunity. I started to see my horizons kind of broadening. And yeah, from that moment of seeing Andy Serkis doing it and trying to trying to focus my training on that, that kind of started my journey. And then Wellington is a big city, but it's pretty small when you think about it. So everyone knows everyone. So the idea of or the opportunities you have to build a network of people who are making the work you want to make, it's very easy. And through those conversations and those relationships forming and that network building, that kind of propagates more work. and that's how I kind of flew into it, really.
I totally relate as far as in networking, because I know just in running this show, it's been a massive amount of networking from different people. I mean, and shout out to Scott. Go check out his previous episode because if it wasn't for Scott, me and you wouldn't be talking right now.
Yeah, exactly.
So I totally get that. And as far as though it's funny, I think you say, you're never going to be a movie star, dude. You were King Kong, right?
I know, right? I know. 8-year-old Allan is having an absolute blast right now.
Yeah, like that's correct. Did part of you, because look, if I got cast in that role, I'd be like, look, I'll put on all the balls and all the mocap shit, but will you get me a monkey suit? I couldn't help. I want one, man.
I mean, performance capture and motion capture is awesome because you have monitors that are giving you real-time playback of what you're doing, and you can see the digital version of your character.
Oh,
So you get the idea that that you're in the body or in the suit. So all the films where I've had to do monsters and superheroes and robots and all sorts, I can see it on the monitors, and that makes it really, really it feels a bit more tangible, even though I'm standing in like gray lycra covered in dots, looking like an absolute weirdo. The fact that I can look over at monitors and see it, really helps get the imagination firing and helps you settle into the character.
I mean, yeah, and I think even watching, because like I said, I didn't have time to watch all of Godzilla versus Kong, but I watched the parts more than anything that featured the two monsters. And I think, I mean, you gave a great performance in that, man, because I mean, they took all of your face from that, right?
They did do a lot of my facial stuff. The artists at Weta FX, they're magicians, so they got video footage of my face and the emotion and what's kind of happening, and then they have really good facial artists, so they augmented a lot of what I was doing. So it was a real partnership between Weta and myself to find Kong's emotion.
And I think that's interesting, man, because like I said, I mean, you've played Kong, who's an emotional creature. There's a lot to Kong that I don't think people really put into it. But then you go and you play Cokey the bear, who firstly, for anybody that doesn't know, that is literally based on a true story. Mind you, the true story is the bear ate a bunch of coke and died.
Yeah.
Because that's what would happen. If a bear eats a pound of coke, it's not going to go on a killing spree. It's going to have an overdose. Right? But that would make a very, very bad movie.
Very short movie, yeah.
And who wants to see that, dude? Some idiot lose cocaine in the forest, the bear eats it, and then like 30 minutes later, it's plump. Like, yeah, that's just kind of tragic, right? It's way funnier when you do what was done with that film. But like I said, you're going to play Kong, who's emotional, sensitive, but at the same time has that violent side, to playing Cokey the bear, who it is straight up, I want more coke and I will eat your face, right? How did you go from the switch? Because there wasn't a whole lot of time between you doing those two roles, right? About what, year and a half?
No, there wasn't. No, there was I was fortunate that for Cocaine Bear, the studio gave me time to do research. And so my job was to observe the way that an actual bear in the real world lives, breathes, moves, kind of exists, and then try and figure out how I could get as close to that as possible. And then once I was on set working with Elizabeth Banks in those scenes, she would come up with ways of kind of extending the action, of saying like, yes, a bear would do this, but this bear is on cocaine, and this bear has, this bear is now, for want of a better term, superpowered. So it can run faster, it can jump higher, it's a lot stronger, it has less, it's even more fearless. So we would find ways of extending what Cokey was doing. And it was Elizabeth had a real focus on making sure that the violence from Cokey was always a result of interactions with humans. So when you see Cokey, there are moments where you see Cokey sitting and like chasing after a butterfly, or you see Cokey sitting and just kind of looking around. So you see those moments where you realize that she's just a bear trying to do bear things. It's just unfortunately now she's addicted to cocaine, so she goes off the rails real hard when she does.
I mean, look, man, I live in an area where meth is a problem. So, I know my fair share of people who are into such things and the problems that they will cause. And I can only imagine that if they had the strength of a black bear and the attributes, that's beyond terrifying, to be real honest. I mean, it is, right? So let's throw this in the mix because I want to know. Let's just say, not only did that cocaine coke up that bear, but for some reason it made it King Kong size, right? Right?
Yeah.
For some screwy reason, suddenly this bear is King Kong size. Who do you think wins that fight?
Whoa, that's like, okay, right? So Kong is big, Kong's strong.
He's got
pretty
reach.
clever.
He's got
reach. He has an axe, but a Kong-sized Cokey, that's a black bear with like machetes for hands. And and like a jaw that can like snap through steel. So long as Kong can keep that distance and kind of dominate that reach, I think Kong would have it. But as soon as Cokey gets a hold of him, I reckon it's all over. Cokey's just going to eat him alive. Because
All right.
like, if you know what I mean, like if a giant cocaine bear is coked up, Kong can punch it and hit it as much as he wants. That bear's not going to stop.
Yeah. All right. So we've already discussed the fact that let's be real honest, between Kong versus Godzilla, when it's 1-on-1, there's a reason they call Godzilla the king of the monsters.
Yeah.
He's a damn beast, right? What do you think his chances are against Cokey the bear, King Kong size?
Whoa, see, that's a good question. I've never thought about that. I think my instinct would be that it would be pretty close, and I feel like it would come down to an endurance match between the two of them, between Cokey and Godzilla. And I'm not even factoring in the fact that Godzilla can shoot things.
That I feel is his overwhelming advantage in any fight with pretty much any other monster, except if you want to bring in Gojira. You know what I mean? The three-headed dragon, because that he can also breathe whatever it breathes. It's not exactly equivalent to Godzilla. Oh, yeah, it's lightning in the new films.
Lightning, yeah.
So it does have that advantage, and I don't feel like Cokey would have the sense, based on the fact that it's coked out, to get the hell out of the way. So I kind of feel like that would be the downfall in that. Is
exactly, like Cokey would just be straight line.
Yeah, it's like I'm running straight line.
Yeah.
I have a hole in me. Crap.
Yeah, and it's like, it's interesting, like, like that idea of experiences with people who have gone a bit crazy on meth, because meth is a thing here in New Zealand as well. And you're right, it's just that single-mindedness that these people have. Like, they don't realize that they're injured, they just keep going. And like, I don't know if injuries would stop Cokey. Like, you'd have to do some serious damage to get through that. And because I think I like to think that the one of the reasons that Kong is so powerful is that Kong is also is smart, is clever. So Kong can see the disadvantages that he's at and work around it. And because of Godzilla and Kong have like comparable sizes. I feel like there's differences to the ways that they can navigate their surroundings. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like Kong is a bit more mobile than Godzilla. Godzilla's pretty quick and pretty strong.
Unless it's that water
And
scene. If it's in water,
exactly,
it's
right?
an ass whooping. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Godzilla's just
Kong can't breathe underwater and can't
yeah,
swim that well.
yeah.
So
That's that lizard
Godzilla's got the
advantage.
home field advantage there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and I see your point because I mean Godzilla definitely isn't as intelligent as Kong. I mean, you can see that. I'd like to think in almost any piece of film, or if you go into the comics or the books or anything that's been done about those, Kong is always shown to be more of an intelligent creature than Godzilla, which makes
Mm-hmm.
sense because have
Mm-hmm.
you ever met a lizard as intelligent as a monkey? You know, so
Mm-hmm.
it
And
it
it's not
makes
to say
sense.
that Godzilla isn't intelligent, right?
Oh,
Like there are shots where you can see that Godzilla has some intelligence there. But yeah, I think the sense is that there's a Godzilla is feels very very like single focused. Like there is a reason why Godzilla keeps attacking Tokyo. There's a reason Godzilla fights who he wants to fight. There's like a singular drive to Godzilla, I feel, and this could be completely wrong, but yeah, I feel like it's, as you say, it's always been portrayed that there's a different kind of sentience to Kong versus Godzilla.
well, and I think that has to do with the fact that, excuse me, Kong has a way higher problem solving ability
Hmm.
than Godzilla
Hmm.
did. Godzilla is more like you said, it's single minded. It's, oh, there's a problem. Well, I'm gonna go through it, you know,
Hmm.
because I can. And if I can't
Hmm.
go through it, I'm gonna breathe fire on it, or and it's gonna go away. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's very straightforward. But with Kong, yeah, he has more of a thought of, you know, oh well, I'm not trying to get my ass whooped, so let me do this, this, and this. That way,
Hmm.
I can deal with this problem and not have to take
Hmm.
it head on and take as much damage. I mean, you can see that. I
Hmm.
think in so many pieces of film and literature, like I said, with between those two
Hmm.
characters. I
Hmm.
just think it's very funny. I just think it would look now personally. I just want to see Kong versus Godzilla versus Cokey the bear.
Yeah, that's I think you're onto something there. I think that'd be great. The next big kaiju is just cocaine bear.
Oh my god! The only problem with that is you could never get in enough Coke. Dude, it would eat
Yeah,
Columbia.
that's true.
It would fucking
That's
eat
true.
Columbia and barely be high.
Yeah, the sheer tonnage you would need.
Jesus Christ. Sorry, I just brought that to my brain. It made me think of
Mm.
like Scarface, that scene where he's just shoving his head into a pile of coke.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
imagine that with a giant kaiju just like
yeah,
shoving its head into Colombia.
yeah, yeah. The whole country just.
Yeah. Oh, somebody needs to like look. I know there are people out there that make fan films, and you can make this happen. Don't lie to me. Somebody go do it. Right? It'll probably get 8 billion views. I wouldn't be surprised. People would be like, they put what and what and what together, right?
Yeah.
Now with that, man, like I said, you've played some iconic roles. You've had a chance to play one of the biggest villains that the DC has put out in its live, as far as everything. I mean, I'd say it's probably top three in the villains that they've actually done in live action.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
'Cause, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, because Darkseid, obviously, because he was in
Hmm.
that, and
Hmm.
then Zod. Ah, there you go. I'm not a big
Mm.
Superman guy. It took me a second. All right. I mean, I would say, and I don't know where you would. Well, you would obviously rank the Dark Side first because that's DC's Thanos, and then I don't know
Right.
exactly where you
Yeah.
would rate. I don't know exactly where you would rate the other two as far as within that. I was never a big DC guy, right? You've got a chance to stand
Mm.
up with Thanos for Iron Man. You've played King Kong. You got to play a coked up bear, which, dude, that had to be fun at points.
It was fun 100% of the time.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Did they
was
bring you people
even
to
when I
really?
wasn't, because when I wasn't being the bear, like I was still, I was on set, I was still working with the actors, we a number of us kind of would hang out on our off days and became friends and we would go on adventures and stuff. So there was fun it was an enjoyable experience from the moment I arrived to the moment I left. Great.
So with that, and with knowing everything they're doing in the industry right now with comic book,
Mhm.
and you being a fan of comics from your questionnaire, which y'all can go check out on the Patreon, all the answers, because
Mhm.
I'm not going to get into everything he answered. I never do. If I got into all the answers that I made everybody that came on the show answer, every episode would be 3 to 4 hours long, and nobody's got fucking
Yeah.
time for that. Right? No one does. It's just little bit tidbits so y'all can go find some shit out, and so I can trick everybody at the end of the interview. And I mean the guests, not the watchers. So we'll get into that later. But with that in mind, is there
Mm.
anything in comics that you look at that you're like, I'd like a chance to do that for the mocap? Because there's a ton of characters you could mocap that I mean, it's endless.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there are so many, dude. It's like, because ultimately the reason I wanted to do this stuff is because when I read comic books and when I see these characters and these storylines, there are moments where you can see these characters achieve things or do things that are incredible or or impossible. And so for the few superheroes and supervillains that I've played, kind of having just a fragment of that experience is really enjoyable. So like, yeah, there are like, oh man, thinking about comics, hard to say, man. I haven't done. I think probably maybe something along the lines of uh interest, like characters that can uh that can that can kind of manipulate reality are always fun because that is a real imaginative exercise. For some of the stuff we did with the Marvel films, especially with characters like Doctor Strange, having to imagine what the visual effects were going to be doing and trying to figure out the context, because they're never like, they don't say wave your hands around, something magic's going to happen. When we work on the stage, we're always looking at what is happening, why is it happening, why is this character choosing to do it this way. And so for me it comes down to, like, yeah, when I read a comic, like I recently finished Kill 6 Billion Demons by Abaddon, and what I loved about that was the expansive world that he's created and the variations on characters, based on kind of ideas of hell and demons and devils and like the supernatural and the occult. And like, I guess I maybe there's an ADHD part of me that really likes the idea of exploring those different things and never being one thing. Yeah, so it's and I mean, there's still so many comics that I haven't read, so there's probably characters out there that I haven't seen and I don't know.
It was a vague ass answer, man.
Yep. I'm sorry, dude. It's such an open question.
It's the questionnaire, man. Like I ask open ended questions all to hell. It's just I can't
I
help
know,
myself,
man.
man.
I know.
It's the ADHD on you. It's the autism for me. So it happens. It's all right. Uh, but I really think like how tall are you, man?
I'm 6 foot
Oh, you're not tall enough
for a number of things. Yeah.
for Vlad from Hack Slash.
Oh, yeah, no way, man. No. I mean, again, though, motion capture, I could be anything I want.
I mean
I could be tall enough.
that's true. I don't know if they would. I don't know if they would mocap that character. I mean, they might mocap that character. I don't know. You never even know what they're gonna do that with
Mm,
going back and forth anymore. I mean, it's
mm,
very I mean, because hell, didn't they mocap some of the aliens in the most recent Alien films?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Which is
Yeah,
bizarre
dude,
to me.
they'll mocap. Like we've done motion capture sessions where we literally motion capture crowds of human people doing everyday human things. So, like, and then we've motion captured creatures, we've motion captured weird non-humanoid things, we've captured for giant monsters, giant robots. So there's a lot of possibility with that sort of thing.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever done mocap for?
Ooh. uh, there was there's a creature in a it's a New Zealand feature film. It's called Shadow in the Clouds, and it was this creature that was kind of like a bat meets a spider monkey meets a gremlin meets a scorpion. It had limbs and wings and a tail with a spike on it, and it wasn't designed to move in a way that was too humanoid. It had to look like a weird kind of animalistic primal thing. And we tried to motion capture that with me getting my body into the position that the creature was in. And a human body can only exist like that for a small amount of time. And we did so many shots, and there are shots where it's upside down. It's like clamped onto the bottom of an airplane. So we were building things that I could try and like hang on upside down whilst attacking people and jumping off. When it comes to things that are definitely non-humanoid, that's always weird. The creatures from the Tomorrow War was similar. They were like quadruped, I think. Maybe they might have been insectoid, but they were these creatures that had like many limbs and like two kind of, like mobile limbs at the front they could manipulate things with, and then like tentacle kind of tail things. Like it was so there. Those are always weird because they're like, cool, Alan, can you be this creature that has a tail? And I'm like, well, I'm a human and I do not have one. So unless you found a contraption that I can control and use like one, that's fine. And then and then we find creative ways to do it. Like we'll attach something to the suit that gives me the idea of the length of the tail and the weight of it, but we may also puppeteer it with like dowel or sticks or whatever, because you can't see that in the mocap. So they can manipulate the tail and puppeteer it. So there are always creative ways to find out.
What do you think of the limits of mocap at this point? Do you think
The limit.
or do you think there even are any for that matter? Like, do you think there's something someone could come up with and be like, I want to mocap this, and somebody be like, you're out of your damn mind?
I think the limit. I mean, a limit is definitely like like reality, the constraints of reality. That's the limit, because it's a tool that gives you the foundation for a lot of creative expression. And there is like human beings can only do so much within the bounds of reality. And also the physical act of recording these things can only exist within the bounds of realistic expectations. So, but I think in terms of the actual, like the concept of performance capture and the creative exercise of capturing performance is a creative and imaginative expression. So there are no limits to what you could achieve through using motion capture as a foundation or a tool to get there. But with anything that requires humanity to be a part of it, you're limited by humanity. You're limited by reality and by what the humans can do. And there are so many factors in this world that affect that, like who is available, do they have the skills, what team do you have, what are their what's their experience, what technology are you using, how long can you use it for, where are you using it. All of these things that are external realistic factors limit what you can do. But like Frank Zappa said, like necessity is the mother of creation. So you got to have those limits, because otherwise your creativity is going to flounder, because it's got no direction, has no challenges to overcome.
Well, let's get into that on creativity and bring up something that's definitely been debated on this show, and it's definitely been something that's been an issue within all of the film industry as of recently. Do you think AI could have an impact on motion capture? And if so, do you think it could be in a manner that would negatively affect humans, ostensibly?
Oh, of course. There are so many. There are pros and cons with AI. there is such potential for it to be harmful in terms of we're already seeing it with a lot of creativity, in the sense that we are seeing the way that people are using AI and generative tools to essentially train itself on other person's artwork and replace well, people are using it as a replacement for creatives, for the creative person,
or stuff like that.
right? And it's like that's the problem comes when people design AI to to replace something that it's not meant to replace. And in saying that, AI is an incredibly powerful tool. Like, look at what it's doing. And I liken it to the creation of AI. For me, seems similar to the creation of the circular saw. And when the circular saw was invented, builders didn't stop building. They kept building. It's just that their wood cutting became a lot faster and a lot more efficient. And I feel like AI has the potential to be a way that we can get to the refining stage of our creativity faster. Like, I think it's a great way to generate foundations because of the processing speed of it, right? We're harnessing that processing speed of computers to make a lot of decisions fast and get us to a foundation that we can start refining. And I think the danger comes from the fact that right now the only AI systems we're seeing in the creative sphere are ones that are designed to steal the work and then create versions of that work. And then we start running into things like ownership of creative license, ownership of likeness. That's another big thing I'm seeing in our industry right now, is that some companies are using AI to take a person's likeness and then claim ownership of that likeness and use it however they feel is appropriate or however they want to, which is terrifying, because so much of how we operate in a society, we place responsibility on the person. And if that person, and one of the only ways we can really assign that responsibility is through likeness. So if someone can take your likeness and put it in a situation where you did not consent to be in, suddenly we have an issue where the responsibility for that, based on the likeness, has to fall back to that person. And how do we regulate that? How do we deal with that? You know?
It's a slippery ass slope you just put
It
there,
really
man.
is,
Like,
man. It really is. You know,
yeah,
and someone discovered that ChatGPT would be the perfect tool to replace CEOs. Like, someone did a test, and like
I mean,
they
I
were
don't
like,
know
"Oh,
that
look,
I'm. Yeah,
CEOs. We could just get rid of fucking CEOs, and instead of paying them $230 million a year, we just get a robot to make all those decisions and filter that money to the people who deserve it / need it."
yeah. I mean, I don't know that I'm necessarily against that one. I think that's one of the few cases of
Right?
using AI.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, where I'm like, let's do that, man. I think the only other one that I've really heard is like using it for to help medical diagnosis. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
right? Because
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, like using a superpowered computer brain to process decisions and information incredibly quickly so that we can reach a result or a diagnosis. That's helpful. That's incredibly helpful. It's just at the moment we're currently building it on really like morally dubious grounds, and I don't think we need to.
Isn't that how we as humans build most things?
Unfortunately, yes.
I mean, as sad as it is, I think most of the things that we as humanity have built, there's some morally questionable things that occur. I mean, yeah, like people. and I mean, I know you're over in New Zealand, and I know we've had a number of guests that were international. But like I said, I'm from the U.S. and the creation of this country was morally questionable
Mm-hmm.
a great
Mm-hmm.
deal because,
Mm-hmm.
well, if you bring up the word genocide, everybody instantly likes to think of the Nazis, right?
Yeah.
That's the first place anyone goes. It's not the people that got closest to it in recent history.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking the colonizers that came over here and took this damn country over because like there's way more
Yeah,
Jewish
man.
people than there are natives, you know, and
I
nobody
mean,
wants
yeah,
to talk about
New
that.
Zealand was colonized. That's an international story. That one.
Yeah, it's like let's not talk about that bit. Let's just
Yeah.
gloss the
Yeah.
fuck over it, and nobody. I mean, nobody just. It's just funny to me that nobody wants to talk about that and how morally corrupt we seem to be when we're trying to take an advantage of anything, up to and including one another, man. And I don't know. It's kind of sad. I want a system that provides properly for everyone too, Alan. I do.
Mm, mm.
That's one of the best wishes, but I think to like if you get that system, like are you because if you do it worldwide, that means there's somebody at the top of that system that's real morally corrupt. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah, you're looking at like some kind of benign despot at that point, eh? But I mean, part of me is like, when I thought about that question about the wishes, I was like, you know, the idea of a wish is like it's like it's something that you're looking forward to or something you have hope for, I think. And this idea of creating that system, like if there was, I guess the biggest challenge is, of course, humans. We want to own stuff and we want to have ownership because it's part of our like self-actualization. It's part of our identity of what we have and own and what we create and what we kind of have responsibility for. And maybe that comes back to like a genetic thing of like wanting to leave a legacy, right? But I have honest hope that ideally I feel like most of the planet realizes that we function better when we're a collective and we're supporting each other. Um, Again, I'm also I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist and an altruist. So I have hope for people, and I've been burned in my life. There are some people who do not agree with what I think, and you can just take a look out the window and see that, or just flick on the news and see that. So I
Uh,
feel like there's got to be hope for something better.
I mean, I would certainly hope so, and I think the percentage of people that really don't think that we work well when we're working together are probably those that like to make us work for them more than anything else for their own
Yeah. Yep.
benefits.
Yeah. I'd say so. I'd say
yeah,
so. Yeah.
like oh Jesus, I about said Jeffrey Epstein. That's a bad comparison. Like nothing that's not a terrible, morally deplorable piece of shit, right? And but what I meant was, oh, what the hell is that? Not no. Jesus, I'm running through billionaire and assholes names and can't get to the one I want. It's kind of annoying. Jeffrey Bezos.
Ah. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like I don't think he ever wants that system.
I don't think so. I don't think any billionaire wants that system
Anybody when you
because the only way to get to $1 billion is to exploit humanity. That's the only way to do it.
I think that's funny because I hear people saying like, "Well, what about all the work they did?" And I'm like, "Motherfucker, what the shit do you mean? I'm telling you, in a lifetime, I don't give a shit if you live to be 300 years old. You ain't doing $1 billion worth of work. Mentally, physically, any other way you can think of. You are not doing $1 billion worth of work. I don't give
Hmm.
a damn. You know? So I think it's
Mm.
funny when people defend that. It makes my
Yeah.
head hurt, and I have to change the topic now because this is making me even more. But I will say, man, let's flip the script to this, right? Let's say they remade it. That film you think is the best film, that being The Princess Bride, right? And now look, I love The Princess Bride. It literally,
Yeah.
it is, and me and my wife were discussing this. It is the only film I think that exists really that covers almost every genre you can think of. The only thing I can think of that's really it doesn't have a touch of is sci-fi. You know, I mean, there's definitely
Mm.
fantasy in there, but there is no science fiction, which you ain't covering everything in any one film. If you did, I don't know what you were smoking, bro, but you must have got it off Cokey the Bear. All right, that's we'll leave it at that. Um, but if they redid that,
Yeah.
is that
Okay.
what part would you want
What
if
part would I
you
want?
if you could
Oh,
pick one?
Inigo Montoya. He's the coolest ever. He's the coolest dude ever. That's the part I want. That's the part I want. Like deeply in my soul of souls. That's the part I want.
All right.
He's just the coolest dude.
Well,
And he has some of the best lines.
uh, firstly, I just want to say, please, no one remake the fucking Princess Bride.
Oh no, 100%. No, do not.
Okay.
Do not. It is a time capsule of cinematic gold.
The
It's
only
absolutely amazing.
the only acceptable take on the Princess Bride is when they made a PG-13 version of Deadpool 2.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, all right.
And I mean, that really wasn't them redoing the Princess Bride. That was Deadpool being like, "I'm gonna kidnap him," and like that was perfect.
Yeah.
That was the best Princess Bride reference I think I'd ever seen in my life,
Yeah, it was
and
great.
it was done so well. So if you like kids and you like Deadpool, there's a PG-13 version out there if y'all ain't aware of it called Once Upon a Deadpool. That's freaking
Once Upon a
hilarious.
Deadpool. It's so good.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like the fact that he duct tapes him, man. Like, and then censoring him the whole time. Look, we only got one F and two S.
Yeah.
Like this is the best thing. That's the only thing. Like they should really do that for Deadpool 3 too, in my opinion. He should just kidnap his ass again because I already know it's going to be R rated.
Yeah.
Do it again, man, and have that kid be even more confused. Like, what's going on? How am I
Yeah.
getting kidnapped again? God damn it! All right. I could go about the Princess Bride and Deadpool for a while, man. Like them are two classics, and I really am
Hmm.
amazed how they intertwined that. Um, then too, though, man, you put games. Dude, what is a TTRPG?
Oh, a tabletop role playing game like Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay, okay. I didn't. I was like RPG. I was like, what the hell's the TT stand for? That's
Oh,
terrible. I've played some. I mean, it's been a while since I've played anything. I've played D&D, but oh my god, it's been years ago. What's your experience in that?
dude, I was introduced to it by a dude when I was in high school. I was like 14, and we had like the local video store, and the guy who worked at the video store was like the coolest dude in the community. Like, and this is like the 90s, so he had like a ponytail, and he wore like black jeans, he listened to Guns N' Roses, he did like aikido, uh and he like watched a lot of sci-fi and a lot of fantasy, and it became a hub for like the little delinquents in our neighborhood. So all us little troublemakers would go to the video store, and this guy Paul Tomlins would kind of like be like the master splinter to our little Ninja Turtles. So we would we'd ask him for advice, and he had an understanding with the owner of the store that if kids from the neighborhood were just hanging out and loitering in the video store, then obviously we weren't out causing trouble. So the owner was like, "Hey, look, that's fine. Like they can come and hang out. That's all good." So we would like all gather, and Paul would put on like a movie like The Princess Bride or like Masters of the Universe or Star Wars, and he created a real community with us like kind of young impressionable people, because he would ask us what our favorite movie was, and then he would find a character in that movie and give us a nickname based on that character. So he created like this little connection between all of us as this little gang of kind of, movie nickname kids. And he was playing, I think, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which was like second edition, and he just introduced it to a bunch of us, and we started playing. And then I played that for like 2.5 years with a group at my school, and then video games kind of came in full force in New Zealand, at least. Like we had the Sega Master System, the Nintendo Entertainment System, and that just kind of took over. It was everywhere in New Zealand, and then it kind of grew from there. So I put that aside for years, and then didn't pick it up again till like must have been 2015, I want to say. And then I remembered how much I loved it, and I've just been back in it ever since, playing different games, different systems. Because ultimately, just like we found when we were kids at that video store, it's about a bunch of friends coming together and like, getting some beers and some pizzas and making up stupid voices and telling a story and having a good time. And then, you kind of rinse and repeat. It's a great way to kind of build that community.
Yeah, I had a thought at one point. I talked to Dave, who's a local comic book guy up here, as well as he does This Month in Comics with me, which I need to get my ass on editing so bad. I whatever. But look, man, this is a one man show. I'm not. I do the shooting and the editing and the. Imagine doing Cokey the Bear like that. You feel me? It would make your brain explode.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but discussing like doing a live like a D&D show with just a couple different creators, and it's like that's like 4 to 8 hours just for and I was like, oh, so not doing that then.
Yeah. I think that's a wise choice. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the decision that was made when Dave took, because like I said, I hadn't played since I was 15 or 16, maybe 17, I don't know, at best. So it's been quite some time. And then he told me that, and I was like, oh, I'll lose my mind, man. And I'd probably have whatever creators that agreed to it wanting to shoot me at the second episode. like, dude, I don't have time for this. I have to go either write, draw a comic book, go, put dots on myself in your case, or, like something like I got something to let her, dude. I ain't got time for this damn game. Like
it's a big time commitment.
How do you find yourself like? Because I mean that's a lot of time.
It is. It is. We really have to schedule it. Like we have to have tight schedules. The group of us who play, and everyone, when we kind of begin the process of building a team of players who want to play, everyone has to be on board with committing to that time. And I mean, and life happens. Sometimes a bunch of us will go away on projects, or something will happen and we have to be out of town for whatever reason. And you work around it. But it's not like a board game that you can like jump into for a couple hours and then you're off and away. Like you gotta really figure out the scheduling and stay relatively tight to it. But I mean, I guess it would be similar to what I assume you have to do in terms of this podcast. Like you've got to set aside the times, find that block of time where you can do what you got to do, and then stick to it, right?
It's tricky, and my promo sucks because of it, and I'll leave it at that. Like if that's the main thing, Alan, I'm gonna be real honest, I could use for the show is I just need one person who their whole primary thing is just to promote the hell out of the show. You know what I mean? Because in the aspect of doing like I've seen a TikTok from you earlier today, and it made me be like, God damn it, I need to make more TikToks. That was the one where you gave Scott a shout out, and then like literally it made me think. All it made me, because I was talking to Scott earlier, but all it made me think was, damn it, because I've got so many little bits from so many different people. I've already got 5 or 10 here that I could cut into TikToks, just us chopping it up about this, that, or whatever. Talking about Cokey the Bear and Kong and all this like that. The Cokey the Bear Godzilla Kong conversation, I'm pretty sure it would go well on TikTok, right? That means I have to take the time to edit this episode and then cut that part out and then fucking cut it into a TikTok and then lose my shit.
Yeah, it's a whole nother time sink, eh? It's a whole nother time commitment, man. That's why there's only like 2 videos on my TikTok, because I'm like, it's just me sitting in front of my bookshelf talking nonsense for a few minutes, but still, you still have to prep that sort of stuff and figure out what you're going to be doing and kind of get everything set up.
I know, man. I had to get my Kong and Godzilla pops out of my fucking cabinet.
I saw
Right?
that.
Right? Like shit, I had to get them shits out for this one because I was like, yeah,
Which
man.
Kong is it? Which Kong is it? Is it
It is
the
the
Battle Red
Kong with
Kong?
the battle axe.
Yeah. Oh, with the axe. Nice. I tried to find that. I tried to get that Funko at the convention. Yes, there he is. Ah, I tried to get that one at the convention, but there were is that the exclusive? I don't know if it is. There weren't many of them at the
Not
convention.
that I see. I don't know.
No. Oh, okay. Maybe I just missed out.
No,
But
I got this.
I've got
Man, I
to
think I
track
got
one of
this
those
bitch
down.
at Walmart.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, dude, I was in a casino in Windsor. I couldn't figure that stuff out. And to be fair, I went to a Walmart. I should have paid attention at the Walmart. I went to a Walmart and bought like 10 liters of maple syrup and then left.
Okay. Firstly, I just want to let everybody know I've had them bitches a long time. I didn't hit them. I didn't get those specifically like because of Allan. I love Godzilla. I love Kong. Those are great films. It amazes me that I have the man that played King Kong on Godzilla vs. Kong sitting here bullshitting with them, chopping up. Now, why the hell did you buy 10 gallons of fucking maple syrup? What's going on?
Because we don't get legit Canadian maple syrup here in New Zealand. Well, we do, but it is hella expensive. Whereas, you know, in Toronto, well, we were in Niagara when I got it. I just stroll into a Walmart and it's all reasonably priced. And I just threw that stuff in my carry-on luggage and brought it home. And I was a hero to my people.
I brought the maple, dude.
Yep. People like, what'd you bring back? Did you bring back anything cool? And I was like, just this. You know, and people are like, yes, maple syrup. I'm a simple man.
I don't know. Now, if you're talking about when you were in Canada recently for that con that you just went to,
yeah,
I don't think you'd have found those, dude. I got those like when the film first came out in theaters.
Yeah, they were tough to find. I think one guy at the con had the Battle Axe one. He brought it to me to sign, and that's when I realized that there might be more out there at the con, but there weren't. There's the Battle Scarred one, where he's got the scratches from Godzilla on his chest.
See, now you've got me. Well, you've got me thinking. I know I've got 2 Godzillas because I'll be honest, man. I was always more of a fan of Godzilla. You know, like when the original Godzilla.
Totally fine.
Okay, yeah, when the original Godzilla vs. Kong came out, I like the ending where Godzilla won. I know that was the un-American one. You had to get the shit from overseas to see Godzilla win and beat Kong on the one from what 63 or whatever the hell it was. You know?
Yeah.
But I think I might have another different Kong, but I'd have to walk off this interview and I'd feel like a real like, hold on, Alan, let me go check.
Yeah.
They just walk away for a minute, go check my pop collection out here. Yeah. Feel like a bit of an ass, man. What was it like? So, how many conventions you done at this point?
That was my first one, man. That's the first one.
How did you find that experience?
Oh man, I had a fantastic time. I had the best time because it was just exciting to be there. There were a lot of cool people that I really looked up to and admired, and I didn't realize were going to be there. But everyone was really lovely. I mean, you know, it's Canada. They were friendly and helpful, and I think in New Zealand it's often very difficult for New Zealanders to celebrate their own success. So we tend to get very shy or very embarrassed, or some of us grow up getting guilt tripped by other family members, so we get made to feel a little bit ashamed if we're boasting. So to go to a convention and sit at a table and have international people I didn't know come up to me and tell me how much they appreciated my work and the things that I've done, that was a really, like, that was something that my soul needed at that point, I think. So I had the best time, and we had, like, we had cool VIP experiences. I hung out with Casper Van Dien and we watched Starship Troopers at a bar, and I asked him questions and he like told jokes, and like I there were opportunities and experiences at that convention that I won't get here in New Zealand because it's a whole different thing here. So I had, for the time I was in Canada, I was having the best time. I love Canada anyway, but I was meeting cool people. I was seeing a lot of really interesting things. I was doing the things that I love doing. I was meeting a lot of people like Scott, who's become a really, really good friend of mine, and David Duke, whose art is amazing. And even people would just roll up to me. There was a guy who was I think he was a tradesman. He was like an electrician or maybe like a plumber or something. Like, he was a real, blue collar dude. And he came up with like a Godzilla Kong t-shirt. And he was like, yeah, I've been trying to get my kids to watch like Godzilla movies and Kong movies and Godzilla versus Kong. I'm like, what? That's cool. That's great. Just to have, people come up and really appreciate what I do, because I love what I do. And it was really nice.
Well, yeah, and man, like, I would have loved to have been at that convention. I can't lie. I know for a fact a lot of people that have been on the show were there. Like, like I said, I've had a lot of Canadians on the show, and they've all been very, very pleasant. And then you're telling me you're hanging out with Casper Van Dien watching Starship Troopers, which is hilarious because they just tell us that, like, you're in New Zealand, so I don't know if you ever had this, but did they have like a sci-fi book club where you could sign up and get like 5 books for really cheap, and then you had to like buy? Okay, maybe it's just an American thing. I don't know where else they have this, but
that sounds like a pretty great book club, though.
Yeah, this was, dude. I was young. I mean, they don't sell physical publications like that. Period. I don't think anywhere anymore. Just like, and I might be wrong. You might still be able to find this sci-fi book club. Hell, it might still exist. One of the books I got was Starship Troopers. This was way before the film ever came out. Like, at least by a couple years. And I loved the book. I could grab it if I didn't have so much shit up there, but it's back there somewhere. I think it's behind this piece by Mike Ruth, honestly, so y'all can't see it. And then I went and seen that film. I fucking hated it the first time I saw it. Right? Like, I was like, what shit was that? Right? I was, man. I was, like, how when you're a fan, like, look, there are people that are big Marvel or DC fans or fans of anything you could name, as far as that it was created and then it was turned into something else, and people will hate to something else. I mean, God, the Marvels right now is getting all kinds of shit and isn't even out in theaters. But then, like I said, I was young when that film came out. You know what I mean? And I'd read the book previously, and years later, I went back and watched it, and I think it was because I didn't understand the level of satire that they were doing in that film. I didn't quite get what they had taken from the book. And also the fact that they never described in the book what those bugs looked like. They were bugs. There was no description ever given in that book as to what in any way, shape, or form, what the hell those things look like. So they had to, for the movie, they just had to make that shit up, and that's what they came out with. And years later, I've definitely come to appreciate that at a greater level, as far as for the satire and everything that was included within it. So I think it might have had a lot to do with the age of me. I mean, when I watched it when I was younger, there was only one scene I was really a fan of.
We asked We asked Casper about that scene.
What'd
He
he
was very
say?
diplomatic about
Oh,
it. And because I was thinking about that as well, but that's that similar kind of like my original reaction to it. And I think, remember at the time when it came out, right? Like we, as a kind of society of moviegoers, we had a lot of like high action, like monster films, alien films, like sci-fi films, shooting guns. And then this other film came out that looked exactly the same, but obviously wasn't, right? Because I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, "What is this? This is not what? Like, What is this?" Same thing, right? Because at the time, I'd been fed a steady diet of like specific kind of action monster alien films. And then of course, years later, I watched it again, and I was like, "Oh, I see.
would
It's
you
an
like to know
allegory."
more?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It was
that hit way different years later.
mm, mm,
Just
yeah,
that
right,
one
yeah.
line. Yeah, especially now, like if you look comparatively to when that film came out, and now look at society and how many times you ostensibly see the button that might as well read, "Would you like to know more?"
Would you like to know more? Yeah, yeah.
It's the next button in most cases. They don't label it as to what they should because I don't think most of them have the spine for it personally. They're like, we're not going to
Mm.
put it out like that, you know? So yeah, I mean, this satire, yeah, it's, man, I'm kind of jealous, dude. You got to go hang out with Scott. Whatever. Well, at least you showed up for the show.
Hey man, it's my pleasure. Like I'm as much a nerd as the next guy. And I mean, even then I often feel like I'm pretty casual when it comes to the my experience in kind of nerd culture because it is so broad. Like when I was younger, I thought it was just, I was pretty adamant that my views were pretty spot on with what I thought about things. And then I literally went somewhere larger and saw just how massive kind of the world of sci-fi fantasy kind of creativity, comic books, graphic novels, fantasy books, anthologies. And I realized, you realize that, I mean, for me anyway, I realized I'm like, well, I can have opinions, sure, but there's so much I don't know. People are like, Alan, aren't you an expert at this? It's like, no, no, not an expert. I know stuff, but I'm not an expert, that's for sure.
The only person that's been on this show that I would call a comic book expert is Tom Brevoort. You know who that
Mm-hmm,
is? All right.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
That man amazes me with his
mm,
comic book knowledge. I mean,
mm,
and
mm,
he's been on the show twice, and I mean, he can tell you dates, he can tell you who wrote it, who drew it, who here's the story, and I'm like, damn, man, I thought I was a fan of comics. This dude makes me feel like I need
mm.
to take my ass into the library and just sit and read anything I can get my hands on. And I'm like, damn, yeah.
Mm,
But I mean, that's the only individual I can think of that really
mm.
I've come across, anyways, and I'm sure there's others that have that kind of encyclopedic knowledge about
Oh yeah.
comics. Because I mean, there's so much, like you said, there's no way you could. There's it's not possible to read every comic book that comes out on a monthly basis. Yeah, it's just it's not feasible.
Mm.
I don't know that you could do it even if that was just what you did. Period.
It's just too much, man. It's just too much.
Yeah.
The sheer volume of work and art that's coming out. Not even just from one country, like globally, when you think about like the industries that are propagating through Europe and like Asia, like I mean, anime culture's been around for a hell of a long time.
Yeah.
And there are so many stories being told and so many ideas coming out. It's just phenomenal. It's awesome. And I love for me, I love the fact that there is so much now. My son reads comic books. He's a big fan of comics and graphic novels, and he's just started kind of exploring like anime and kind of the Japanese idea of what comics and storytelling is. And when he was young, like much younger, we would read like fantasy stories to him and mythologies. Like we would read, classics like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, but also we would read to him about, Norse gods, about Southeast Asian gods. We'd talk to him about the legends here in the Pacific and, all across Europe and the different ideas. So I'm hoping he's starting to realize that there is so much available that you don't have to narrow your focus to one genre or one line of storytelling. There's so much to choose from.
And I think that's important for people to realize, not to just focus on one thing. Even though, look, I come to fault at that at times. I'm a fan of characters that are the toss away characters that are like kind of look at everybody and be like, you know what, fuck you. I'm still gonna be the good guy. You know, that's why I'm such a fan of Deadpool, because he was very much someone that was tossed to the side, and everybody was like, no, Wade, you're evil. Something's wrong with you. Go away. And then, if you're talking about the comics, he's the reason the Secret Invasion ended, because Nick Fury called him and was like, "Hey, would you come smoke this chick? Just Wade, just do it. Just shoot her for me, okay?" He's like, "Fine."
Yeah.
And then he doesn't even get credit for it, But then, I mean, you have that, and then you have everything from like the Deadliest Bouquet from Erica Schultz, which is very much a story that could happen in the real world, and it's a comic. It's a great comic. I highly recommend it. Things like that. There's no way, or at least I hope there's no way. I don't want Thanos to show up on planet Earth or Darkseid or any of that. So I hope that's not feasible, even though there's part of my brain that's like, in the grand scheme of the universe, I guess it kind of is. I hope I don't see it, or my kid. How about that?
And I think, and I feel like there's a difference between like being a fan of something. Like I think you should be a fan of something, because being a fan of something is like this. Like for me with tabletop role playing games, I'm a fan because of the singular joy I get when I participate in that art form. And like, playing a lot of video games, I'm part of a lot of fandoms that have a lot of toxicity in them. And that toxicity comes from I don't think from a place of fandom. I think from places of like, like messed up people who don't really, who are too afraid to kind of process things the right way, or don't want to, have more of an idea of like trying to exert power over other people and their choices based on, their own shitty attitudes. Like being a fan is one thing, and it's a fine line between being a fan and just being a toxic asshole. And I think you gotta, like, as a human being, you gotta kind of ride that line, because it's so easy to fall into the toxic side without even knowing, right? And hopefully you've got people around you who can like call you out on your bullshit and be just like, "Hey, whoa, slow it down, man, come on." Because I used to be very, very adamant about my ideas and my beliefs when it came to personal things that I liked. I'm like, well, everyone should like it the way I like it. And then it wasn't until a group of friends literally show, like, what were we talking about? We were having a conversation about video games, and we were talking about consoles. And I was like, well, PlayStation has better games. And someone was like, what does that even mean? And I was like, PlayStation has better games. And they're like, define better. And then, a group, like, we were 16 at the time, but someone had the foresight to have this conversation. There were like three of us, and we talked about, they challenged me on what I thought was the best game, and I thankfully very quickly realized that what I thought was the best was valid. I could enjoy these things, but someone else thought something else was the best, and they were a friend of mine, and I trusted them, and I believed them. And I thankfully had a moment where I was like, oh, I see, we're allowed to like different things, and we can still be genuinely nice humans and love each other and have a good time. Because I was heading on that track of just being like like your stereotypical over exaggerated comic book store guy who who belittles other people's choices.
I,
And I didn't
I
want to be that guy.
I completely understand and relate to the story that you just said, because like when the Deadpool film initially came out,
Mm.
I'd already read an assload of Deadpool, like most
Mm-hmm.
of what had existed up to that point.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
I could sit here and ramble on about Deadpool and his story and so many different things and points, and unless you read the comics, you're not gonna know what the hell I'm talking about, except for like a couple little things that they did include in the film.
Mm.
Suddenly the film comes out and all these people are wearing Deadpool shirts, and part of me's like, they're not real Deadpool fans.
Uh,
And then like the second film comes out, and I'm like, I just have to remember it's okay that they're like they are Deadpool fans. They're just not Deadpool comic book fans. Which is totally okay. But it does make me register that like when I see somebody with Deadpool, so I'm like, sweet shirt, man. And my brain's instantly like, okay, well I can talk to them about the films. I definitely shouldn't bring up fucking his first appearance in New Mutants, or the fact that he's got a kid that's a mutant, or this or that, because they're gonna be like, what in the fuck are you talking about, man? Right? Like what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're going on about. And I'd be like, oh well, I mean, he's only fought Wolverine like 300-400 times. He hasn't even done that yet. I'm sorry, dude. I'm talking about books. Yeah, you know. So I do get
yeah.
that, man, and I do think that's very important within the fandom community for people to be aware. Because I mean, I know, especially since starting this show, I won't bring up one particular thing, but there's a particular group that within the comic book community specifically that I don't know what the fuck their problem is, and I'll just
Mm.
leave it at that.
Right.
And I mean,
Right.
they even got a name for it. But this ain't a gated community. Over here at the questionnaire, we let everybody in. And I think it's important though to realize that everybody has a different aspect. And like you said, it's just because it's your favorite doesn't mean it's somebody else's, and everybody can enjoy separate things. Why do you think it is? Especially, it seems more nowadays that we're more likely to bite somebody's head off because they say something bad about what we like. Like
Mm.
look, if you don't like this show, that's cool. You can turn it off, right?
Mm. Yeah. It's I'm not sure, man. I've been thinking about this for a while. I feel like there are a number of things, right? So I think I feel like we have such a strong focus on like finding the one perfect thing. Like it's a very kind of monotheistic view of, like, when I was growing up, I was raised in like a Christian household. So we were taught that there was like one supreme being, one God, and it was all about the perfect, finding the one perfect, one singular. And I think, you know, part of me feels like we live in such a weird kind of post-capitalist or late capitalist hellscape of a world. People are crying out for some kind of savior, like we're crying out for something to save us, and we seem to think that can only come from one thing, from one, like, the great white savior or the great white hope or whatever, the chosen one. And a lot of the media we consume is built around this chosen one story, which is a great story. It's a great hero story. uh but I feel like a lot of people are missing a lot of the lessons that are being taught by those stories, in the sense that it's not that you are the main character. It's not that you are the chosen one. These stories are put up to illustrate the fact that all of these qualities for the chosen one exist in all of us. And we have the potential to do the great things and be helpful and be sources for inspiration and growth and prosperity together, as like, instead of thinking yourself as being the main character, which I think is where the idea has got skewed. Everyone thinks they're the main character now because media tells you that you're the main character, uh when really what it is like there are heroic aspects in every person, and it's up to us to encourage that from our community and our friends and our loved ones. in the hopes that they would encourage that within us as well, and that's how we all grow as a society. And you know, when it comes to fandoms, like the things that you love, these characters that you love, these heroes that you love, it's becoming such a parasocial relationship between you, the consumer, and your favorite, that, you know, people really can't handle, you know, like loosening that grip, because I guess a lot of us are really struggling to kind of find a lot of good out there, whilst, you know, thousands of people are being kind of bombed every day. But, you know, I feel like I have conversations with people, and it's always about being the best, or being number one, or being perfect. And I feel like that's a very very final way to think about things. If you're perfect, if you achieve perfection, where do you go? What happens? What then? You know,
Yeah.
like if you're striving to be the best, what happens when you're the best? Do you just, like, you know, it's like when, you know, when you're the Intercontinental Champion at WWE or WWF, all you do is defend that title. You don't grow, you just defend that title. So I try my best to like, instead of trying to be the best, I just try and be better than I was previously. So, like, growth is infinite, but putting a cap on your growth and being like, well, I've made it now, this is it. Like, what then? What, do you just stop? Do you either that's it and you plateau, or do you keep going? Because if you keep going, then obviously it's not the end, right? It's not perfection. It's not the zenith. There's more to have, more to find.
I don't think any human being could ever achieve perfection, to be real honest.
I
Yeah.
don't think we're designed that way.
Yeah, I don't think it's feasible. I think the only way that we can achieve a society that would even get to the point to where someone would even contemplate bringing up the word perfect would be through a collective effort of at least most of us. You know, I mean, it ain't necessarily got to be all. You're always going to have the asshole offshoot over here to the left or to the right, respectively, way too far, who who cannot see whatever point everybody else does. It's like, no, this is my point. This is my point. I don't care what you say. This is my point. I won't. It's it's the whole thing that we can't agree to disagree anymore, it seems.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Yeah, it feels that way. But I think also where there are some people who feel like it's okay to agree to disagree on things where, like, they're like, oh, agree to disagree, and you're like, we're talking about human rights, and they're like, well, agree to disagree. It's like, no, 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 no. We can agree to disagree on, like, on whether, you know, like whether a certain superhero should have a certain power set. We can agree to disagree on that. But there are some things in this world that, for the betterment and progression of humanity, we really shouldn't compromise on that. And there are some people who feel like, you know, who have the idea that everything should be like, like have two sides, and like, you get murky with that stuff, you know. And I think, yeah, agreeing to disagree on a lot of things is fine when you're talking about trying to understand things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
But you gotta look at the context of what you're trying to understand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, like, we have a real few issues here in New Zealand at the moment with well-known politicians, leaders in this country, like, you know, like people who make decisions that decide on the future of this country, and they're deciding whether or not trans persons should exist, which is such a dumb thing to be thinking about. Like, let people exist rather than denying someone their existence. It's like, we need to admit that the archaic, oh man, listen to me on my soapbox now, the systems that we currently have don't, like, need to be improved. We need to look at improving our systems as a society. And denying a person the right to exist is not the right way, I don't think.
Um,
I don't think that's the way forward.
all I have to say is denying someone the right to exist, I would say, is kind of inconceivable. I had
Yeah.
to, man. It was just I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. It was like I was like, I got a perfect word for this. Watch this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very odd, man. I mean, and then you look at the situation right now over in the Middle East, which we won't get into if you want to see. I got into it with
But
most shit. Ashraf, man, I'm not gonna try and
yeah.
pronounce your last name. He did Siphon and Siphon Volume 2. They're great. They just dropped from Top Cow. It's
I
just
did. I've watched a couple of your episodes, man. I saw that one. I saw that
yeah,
video.
yeah. I mean, because
Yeah.
he's from that area, you know. So I'm
Right.
not.
And
Yeah,
he's the perfect person to listen to.
exactly. So I'm like, well, it was like that last question I asked. What are the 3 things you really want to get into on the podcast? He put
Mm.
peace in the Middle East, and I was like,
Yeah.
dude, if you were anybody else, I'd tell you to fuck off. We're not talking about it, right? Like if that was if you'd have said that, I'd have been like, the fuck, Alan. You're from New Zealand. What do you mean you want to talk about peace in the fucking Middle East, man? Like
Oh, I
I
know.
know it's topical right now, but like, are you shitting me? That's something you want to discuss? Me and your white ass? Just let's get into
Yeah.
it.
Dude, there are some people in this country who do want to have that conversation, and it's painful. Painful. They're like we have, I have dear friends in New Zealand who are, some of them are Jewish and some of them are Palestinian, and I will listen to them for sure. But there are some real like white bread, like third generation colonizer people who really, really want to have, a spirited debate about this. And it's tough. Oh man, like the easiest thing to do is just walk away and be like, all right, peace out. Let's not talk about this. Let's talk about monsters. Let's talk about video games.
But if you do want to hear that discussion, like I said, it's just a couple episodes back, and it's a gentleman that very much has a great deal of knowledge on it. If you do
Mm,
want to hear about that on the
mm.
questionnaire, that episode's there. We're not getting any farther into it,
Nope.
just because I hope everyone. I wish everyone well there and that they are able to resolve it peacefully, and that's all that I'll say in any regards to that. And I'm sure Alan agrees with me.
Mm.
All right, yeah, yeah, but beyond that, yeah, there's Jesus. I can I say I know you say there's no rush and little steps and you'll get there,
Mm.
but that is one thing I do kind of wish they put a bit more of a rush on is
Bit more of a hustle on, eh? Yeah,
fucking
yeah, yeah. If they could
yeah
just, yeah.
pieces. Not to bring up your, that's a great quote though, man. As far as that, I really do think that's important. I think that's something as a society that we really falter with. And I think a lot of that has to do with social media. You see these people that, I mean, got people on TikTok that they make this one TikTok that blows up and suddenly they're famous. But mind you, the fame that they've garnered isn't lasting. You know, it's not, it's a one hit wonder, ostensibly, is the best way I
Mhm,
would know to
mhm.
relate it. Like,
Yeah.
it's that band back in the 80s that they made that one classic and no
Mm.
one ever fucking heard from them again. I can't imagine how many people do that on TikTok.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I do think it's definitely better to make little steps and progress along, man,
Mhm, mhm.
as opposed to try and do that. I think that's one of the. I'd have to look through all the quotes. Some of the quotes that I've gotten have honestly been great pieces of advice, just in life. I think that's definitely one of them.
Mhm, mhm.
What made that stick out in your head specifically, and do you know where that's from?
It's it's something I realized I had to keep telling myself. I have always felt the push to achieve things now in the industry that I'm in. Always felt that push to get it now because the opportunity is going to disappear. You're going to lose the opportunity. You're going to be you're going to be too old. You're going to be too fat. You're going to be too bald. You're going to be too this, too that, and the window of opportunity is going to pass you by. And I have had to tell myself that uh, over and over that there's no rush. That what I'm looking for is not is what I'm looking for isn't actually in that window of opportunity. That may have just been an opportunity to head further towards what I was aiming for. And yeah, you got to take it one step at a time. You got to do the work. You got to, in New Zealand there's this great saying called "Do the mahi, get the treats." And do the mahi means work in Te Reo Māori, in the Māori language. So it's like do the work and then get the treats. And it's a great mindset to have. It's not like get it perfect right now and then be a superstar. It's like no, do the work. So just commit to just do what you can do and take it step by step by step by step by step by step. And over time, the ideal or the goal that you're setting or the opportunities that you're looking for change and drift. But ultimately you get to where you're always striving to be fulfilled and be happy and be supportive to the people you love around you. And you got to take the steps to build what you want to build, because we don't live in a world where the prizes are handed out to you anymore. I had a grandfather who was literally given a house, Someone just gave him a house, and he lived in that house for most of his life. I've had older siblings who were handed these amazing opportunities, and I think that's very difficult to find now. So you gotta be willing to do the work, and some people have to work harder than others. I've had to work harder than a lot of my friends, but the successes I have now are based on the times that I've spent working on just small bits and pieces, little bits and pieces, piece by piece by piece, and remembering that that's the journey that that gets you where you need to go.
For some reason, I couldn't get Ryan Reynolds on the first episode. I don't know why.
Just like, I mean, he was, maybe he missed that call. He was probably.
Dude, if I'd have pulled Ryan Reynolds for the first episode, I think I'd have done that episode and be like, I'm good. I can cancel the show now.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just make little TikTok snippets out of that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take this one episode and for 3 months I'm gonna make TikTok snips out of it, and yeah, God knows that. Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, there's like you got to take it a little step at a time and enjoy the journey.
And it's been a hell of a quest over here, man. And I think that's something that people forget. That life, in my opinion, is that's why, look, I know Questionnaire, the name of the show, I know it's spelled wrong. I know that shit's got 2 N's. Let's be real clear about that, right? If you've been on the show, you know that, because you get an email that says, this is the pre-show questionnaire, spelled right, for the questionnaire. Spelled all quest capitalized and then minus the N. It makes it easier to Google. You know what I mean? That was really my purpose behind it, as to why I dropped the N. Because I'm like, if I do that and you type it like that, it'll come up in a fucking Google search.
That's it. Yeah, man. SEO, search engine optimization. Look at you.
Yeah, that's totally my reasoning for it. And like I said, I capitalized all the word quest because I'm very much under the impression that's what life is. Life is a quest. You never know what you're going to encounter. You never know what trials or tribulations you may come across at any given moment. I mean, from something that's completely awesome to something that's entirely terrifying. You never know what that's going to be. And I think that's something, for some reason, a lot of people forget nowadays and they take for granted. And I think, personally, in my opinion, a lot of that has to do with, one, the creation of the internet and how we as a species have used it. More how we've used it than its actual creation. It's what we went about with the technology. And 2, the fact that pretty much everything's available on some kind of streaming service now, which means you can get anything instantaneously. Like, it's not you've got to go to the store and get the DVD or go to fucking Blockbuster, which I think there's still one. If I don't know, they might have shut down, but I'm pretty sure there's still one in the U.S. Yeah, there's still one. I'm not sure where it is, to be real honest. If somebody knows, you can call me. I'm fuck, there might be somebody that's like, I live next to that bitch. You know, but yeah, nowadays you just, you pay your $20 for your streaming service and you go and here's 100,000 million different shows you can watch. So it makes it to where it's just, and there is no work behind it. And I think that's a lot of what has caused our problem in the society, man. Like, look, if we suffered a real apocalypse, like a real, like something just happened, whatever it was, zombies, nuclear apocalypse, I don't know, just an asteroid hit the planet and just dicked everything, like whatever, but something that was really apocalyptic, to where like it took down the net and it took down the entire power grid. I think the species might die, man.
We'd be in dire straits, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd
Like,
we'd lose a lot. We'd lose a lot of people.
oh, well, yeah, and the sad thing is there would be a lot of people taking out other people just for assets. Like, I don't want to know, and this is totally a Zombieland reference. I don't want to know how many people would kill somebody else for a Twinkie in that situation.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, it would be fucking bad. You know?
Yeah. There are great benefits to having the accessibility that we have and the instantaneous accessibility that we have. I wonder if a lot of people get caught up on the fact that they think that should be the blueprint for life. That everything in life should be instantaneous when you want it, as you need it. It's like, no. There's a certain amount of human experience that is required to make something worthwhile.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest, because, like, it was a goal of mine when I started this show. I was like, I want to bring somebody on that's acted in some capacity in the Marvel and DC films, right? Which, obviously, hey, there's somebody here. Check it out, Allan Henry in the motherfucking house, right? And before getting to that, I'd ran a radio where I don't know how many interviews I did on it. It was then you can go look up No Fucks Given Radio. A bunch of it's still there. Hell, me and my partner in Kill Effect and my brother Mr. DKB, we interviewed a fucking porn star about aliens for an hour. So we did some random weird things, and I don't even know what episode we're at in the questionnaire because I stopped putting episode numbers because it just didn't seem important, But it is very much has been a stepping process to get to that. I don't like in no way, shape, or form. I mean, I know I made the joke a moment ago, but I don't think would pull if I pulled Ryan Reynolds in the first 100 episodes, I'd have been amazed. I mean, just sincerely, it's nothing in any way, shape, or form I expected. It's not like I know or even know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that know shit. Actually, I might. If I'm gonna go out that far, I'll be real honest. I don't know. Like I mean, I might. There's a possibility. Like, look, I'm pretty sure, Alan. If you probably know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
see?
I'm like two steps away from Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, so I guess that's because I was looking at this and I'm like, actually, looking at this list of Alan's work, I'd be very very surprised if it was that many steps away. We're playing Kevin Bacon over here. What's up?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. I mean, that's what it is, though. Like you said, as far as networking, especially if you want to get into any entertainment aspect, it's very much about the fact of networking and finding people and working into that aspect. Because I don't think there is no easy way in anymore. Unless you join Scientology, maybe. I don't know. That might be an easy way in.
Yeah. But yeah, be born into the industry or be rich. That's it.
Well, I'm not rich, and I was born in Indiana. So
same here, brother.
So networking it is for you and I, good sir. Networking it is.
Yeah.
And that's just the case, man. I'll tell you, I really can't get over the Godzilla versus Kong versus Cokey the Bear now.
That was an inspired question. That was
I want to see that shit, Alan. I do. I just Like, oh my God, I'll get it drawn up. You just wait. I'm going to have a pan con and be like, look, here's the deal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a great idea.
Hey man, that's how that piece ended up at my house. It was drawn live at the show. So, I'll just have a couple artists come on and be like, look, I want you to draw these 3 characters in a fight. And they'll probably all kill me because, that's honestly an ass load to draw in like an hour and a half. If I'm going to be real honest. Not that I don't honestly, sincerely know artists that could do it. What do you find in the process, man, when you're doing mocap? Like, do you ever find times where the process becomes tedious?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, there are it's usually the tedium comes from when it's when the repetition gets to like when the repetition becomes mundane. So and that doesn't often happen, which is great. But I mean, when it comes to the process of like creation of a character or working with animation supervisors or directors to look at characters if I'm doubling them, that's always fun. And there are moments where we're doing take after take after take, or we're filling out crowds and we're recording motion for 120 different characters, and we have to do small snippets. That is a point where that repetition and that tedium can become a problem. But it's a force of will to remember that it's only a problem if I make it a problem. And ultimately, at the end of the day, me, Allan Henry, I'm getting paid decent money to run around in an empty room pretending to be different characters, pretending to be monsters, pretending to be, an old man trying to cross the street, pretending to be, a secret agent driving a car, like remembering that the dream that 8-year-old Allan had, all those dreams I'm getting to do now, and I have the opportunity to do, and that's what keeps me going in those moments where I'm like, we've done the same action like 75 times, and it's not because I'm getting it wrong or the system's getting it wrong. It's because we need to fill a crowd. We need to do this many takes to get what we need to do. So you got to find ways to get through it.
What were you doing that for? Where you had to do that?
A number of things. Usually, it's when they use VFX to fill out a background. So, for instance, on Black Adam, when they're in the streets of Kahndaq, and they're all like the heroes and the villains are fighting, and they're flying everywhere and smashing into things. In the wide shots, you can see like humans, like the people in the streets of Kahndaq running around, like hiding behind cars and or like picking up things and throwing them. We do motion capture where we capture those little bits of movement and animation and interaction with people, like holding each other, and we'll just do like if there are maybe 5 or 6 of us, then we can have a group of 5 people, and then if we do and the shot is only like maybe 7 to 10 seconds long, so it's a short amount of movement and interaction, and we do 10 takes with 5 people. That's already 50 people in a crowd. And then we have individuals where we'll do a take where there are 2 people here, 1 person here, another 2 people here, and they're existing in their own little thing. We'll do 10 takes of that. That's another 50 people. Suddenly you've got 100 people that you can put in the scene. And sometimes we'll do takes where we run long and we only need 10 seconds of action, but we'll do 40 seconds of recording. And then what they'll do is they'll look at that entire timeline of action and just cut it and paste it, and then take this bit, and so the action starts at a different time in the timeline. So you've got in one take, you've got 30 people doing different things for 10 seconds because they can shift the timing of things so they don't match up. So there are days where we just build volume and we build mass.
What do you think that's had an impact on the industry as far as, because obviously that's made it to where extras aren't as necessary.
I think it's become another tool to, because ultimately if they do if they do film it with extras, for instance, in Black Adam, on the streets of Kahndaq, they had extras running around. They don't delete them; they keep them, and they put the VFX amongst them. So it comes down to ultimately, it comes down to what a studio wants to pay for, because getting 300 extras is a certain cost, and paying a VFX company to digitally create 300 extras is a different cost, and it comes down to what kind of cost the studio wants to eat, basically. Because ultimately it all costs money, and it comes down to where they want to spend that money. And also VFX houses are looking like studios look towards VFX because they're like, well, we could say have 150 extras in the scene, and we know that Weta FX, we can ask them to create another 1,000 people filling the stands. So it comes down to, like, sometimes they'll use both. Sometimes it's easier just to do a plate pass, a pass with no one in it, and then just say, fill that. And sometimes that can be easier and / cheaper.
Well, and I could see that also being safer in certain instances as well.
Yes, indeed, yes.
Yeah. You ain't got to worry about nobody getting taken out.
In a studio, you can control the risks a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you're filming out in the open, and especially if you're doing things like they did in Black Adam, where there's shrapnel and this and that. I mean, yeah, I could definitely see the benefit of that, just for insurance purposes, probably more than anything else, and for the safety of people. Yeah, if you're gonna be a human about it. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna be a studio exec, it's for the insurance. If you're gonna be a human, it's for the safety of the other human beings in the room. So, it just depends. What level are you at? Did you support the strikes, or were you pissed about it? Sorry, couldn't help myself, man. I can't believe all the strikes that happened. It blows my mind. It even blows my mind more because there's a South Park episode recently that, like, it says written by Trevor and ChatGPT. Like, he straight up credits ChatGPT as one of the writers. And I'm like, I wonder if they use ChatGPT to write a script like that. Would they have the balls to put it as credited as one of the writers?
I think part of the reason that WGA went on strike, I believe, was because streaming services were just trying to do that, to remove the word writer and just credit writers as co-creators, I think, or creators, because then they could say that, we didn't write this, we got an AI to write it, so therefore co-creators or whatever. Like, it's just it's so dumb. Also, like,
that made my brain hurt.
ChatGPT AI is not at a place where it could achieve the same level of humanity that a human can write. Get as kind of a really broad facsimile of it, but I don't think it can.
Oh yeah, no, and I fully agree. I mean, we had one of the early pan cons that we did over here on the show was about AI art, and I had 5 other artists on that are all phenomenal artists. You can go check that out. It's if you're on YouTube, it's in the PanCon playlist. It's the first one. I am 90% sure it's the first one. I've done a lot of shows at this point. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty positive. I'm not positive. I'm pretty positive. I'm not absolutely positive though. And I mean, that was there because, like you say, the AI is literally using the creation of humans to be able to create what it does. So it's not technically like let's be real honest. AI don't create shit. It doesn't. It steals from everything that it sees as an example because it's not true AI, which I kind of dread us getting to true AI, like a true, like where it's like sitting, it can really truly think for itself. That's kind of scary. And there's part of me that looks at everybody creating and it's like, do you motherfuckers not watch science fiction? Like, if you never read science fiction, like, there are so many examples of this biting humanity in the ass. What do you think you can do to where it does it in the long run? Does that ever worry you in regards to that? Like AI, like, I mean,
I mean,
it took your
yeah.
job. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, but I mean, yeah, like, yes, that worries me, sure, but there are a lot of things in this world that worry me, and it ultimately comes down to the things that worry me are the things that I'm afraid will hurt me or my loved ones, or make make life for me and my loved ones, unbearable. Like, it's those things. So things like war, people busting into my house and hurting me, getting injured in some way that stops me enjoying life. I mean, I have a fear of, like genetic disease that may run in my family. Like, members of my family have been taken from me because of cancer. We have a lot of mental illness in my family. What does that mean in terms of, am I gonna am I gonna get like dementia, or is something gonna happen to my mind? Is something gonna happen to my body? Like, a lot of things worry me about, and it's always a worry about something happening that's going to make make you know make it very difficult to find joy in this life for me and for the people that I care about. And AI, the sentient AI taking over and shunting us into Terminator 2 or the Matrix, like, that's a future that, like, the threat of it is, like, the death of the self, the death, like, the loss of me as a living person. So yeah, yes, it worries me. A lot of things worry me, and I could live my life in fear and be worried about that for the rest of my life, or I can work hard to try to stack the deck in my favor, as it were, um, and find the joy where I can, and try and propagate more of that joy.
Well, let's end on a different note than something so
Okay.
depressing. Because if I wrapped up there, it's kind of depressing. Let's be real honest. And we're not going to do that over here at the Quest because I'm not what I'm about, right? But one of the other things you said you wanted to get into is being a good dad. So I'm curious, man, with everything you do, how do you balance all of that with being a father?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of it comes down to, I mean, the biggest thing is time. When I'm working, I don't have the ability to spend time with my son. So, we find ways of working around that. When I'm home, like I'm currently in Wellington at the moment, I will, make sure that I make time to hang out with my son, and we'll take the dog to the beach. We'll watch, anime movies together. We'll do things together. The time I spend with him is the thing that we both enjoy the most. So when I'm away, we have to find ways to maintain that connection and that time we spend with each other. So, for instance, Cocaine Bear, I was in Ireland for months. Like, I couldn't come home in between. So, and he couldn't come and visit me either. So what we would do is we made a plan I would video call him every day without fail at around about the same time. And also, because the time zones were so different, one of the things we did when he was younger was, obviously, when it was bedtime, I would read him a story before he goes to bed. I couldn't do that. So what I would do is I found a copy of a book called Snark, which is based on The Hunting of the Snark by Lewis Carroll. It's a book I enjoy. It's a book that my son enjoys. He had a copy. I had a copy. I would record myself reading a chapter and then send that video to him, and he would watch it and listen to it before he went to bed whilst he was reading along. So we tried to make like a facsimile of the time we would spend together. And yeah, there are so many, like, people say there's no handbook to being a parent, and my son is such a unique individual, as we all are. The ways that I interact with the world and the things I do to keep myself happy and kind of fulfilled are not necessarily the same things that he enjoys. So I have to figure out who he is as his own individual little person, and then find ways to support that. And I mean, he loves what I do, and he sometimes joins me on a few gigs, so he understands. I hope he understands how the industry works and why timing is such an issue. But yeah, we try and spend as much time together.
How old's your boy, if you don't mind me asking?
He is 11.
He's 11. Okay, my boy's only 4. I was gonna recommend a book, but I think he's probably a little past green light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Green light. I'll write that down anyway.
Green Light by it's Diane Karzu.
Mm-hmm.
Karzu's her last name. I can't remember the first off the top of my head, and I only know that because my boy's always like, "Who's that girl?" at the picture at the end, so I have to tell him, it may be Brienne, Diane, Brienne. Shit, I don't know. I'll let you know
That's right,
that
man.
right
I'll
after
check it
I
out.
do. Yeah, right after I do this next thing, which is let everybody know that first. Y'all need to go check the links in the description. Find out everything this man has done. I mean, you can literally go to a lot of streaming services and check out a lot of what Allan over here has done. I mean, that's the truth, man. Look, or go buy the Blu-ray Kong versus Godzilla. Because like, if you like monster movies and you have not seen that, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. Okay, because you shoulda. All right, it's literally it's a phenomenal movie, man. And I mean, I say that like I said as someone that I've watched the original Godzilla film. I'm waiting for Godzilla Zero. I'm curious as to how they're gonna do that little bit, man. Wait, can you say are you playing Kong in the next film?
In the new Empire, Godzilla
The
X Kong.
Godzilla X Kong, yeah.
There's a possibility. There's a high chance that
Okay.
I'm.
Okay. I had to throw that out there, man, because I'm really looking forward to that from what I've heard about it. And then I know that they've got the Monarch series that's just about to drop as well. I just didn't Are you involved in that at all?
Monarch, yeah.
Yeah, all right. So look, he's got plenty of things coming up. There's links in the description where you can get his IBD as well as everything else. Find out a great deal about Allan. Now, I want to let you know if you've enjoyed this interview with Allan, which apparently my dog got mad about. I don't know why, right? But if you've enjoyed, oh, cat fight. Apparently, the cats can't decide whether they liked or didn't like it, so they're just gonna duke it out, right? But for y'all,
Classic cats.
right? Yeah, for y'all, if you did like it, what I want you to do is I want you to send, right? Where's that color? That a purple dragon, right? With a bunch of pizza, coffee crisps, and Autobot City over to Allan, right? Right? So a purple dragon with pizza, coffee crisps, and Autobot City. Man, you got the hookup, Allan. That's a pretty phenomenal collection. Now, on the reverse side of that, if for some reason you did not like this interview and you're like, man, Allan's just a whatever word you want to insert there, there's plenty of them you could, right? Now, if you have that and you just like screw this whole interview, I don't know why I wasted these 2 hours of my life. What I want you to do, right, is I want you to send a bunch of spiders, right, to web Allan all down in an eggshell colored room with eggshell colored web and make him watch a Serbian film. That is the exact reaction I expected. I assume you know what a Serbian film is. Allan, I hope they don't. Because one, fuck that movie. I hate the fact that I used to run a horror movie review show and one of the asshole co-hosts picked that, so I had to watch it all the way through, and I would have turned it into.
My God, never again, never again.
Yeah, no, dude, never. I could not ever watch that film again in my life. It is, but so I hope you've enjoyed this. So Allan doesn't have to endure that. And who the hell wants to be in an eggshell colored room colored by eggshell colored web? That's just terrible, right? And like I said, make sure you click all the links in the description. Besides that, I want you all to do 3 things, right? Well, you know what? On this episode, we're gonna make it 4, right? 1, give it that thumbs up. 2, get your comic on. 3, go check out some of Allan's flicks, man, right? If y'all haven't seen Godzilla vs. Kong, the fuck is wrong with you? Besides that, have a good night, y'all.
I got it. Tell me when.
I've just started, Jay.
All right. Hi, this is Kelman Andrushevsky.
Hi, I'm Martin Cocolo.
This is Tom Brevoort.
Groucho is my name.
This is Fabian Nicieza.
Hey, it's Dan Chichester, also known as the pretentious sounding DG Chichester. I am the author of many comics, including the upcoming Daredevil Black Arm.
Yes! I'm a comic artist currently working for Marvel. I'm a store breaker at Marvel and working on Immortal Thor.
Hey! We know each other. He's a friend from work.
You're listening to the Questionnaire podcast.
Make sure you check out the Questionnaire.
I have to get off this planet.
The Questionnaire podcast is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Am I on the Citadel?
Tune in every Wednesday at 7 o'clock to the Questionnaire.
Or when the episodes drop, because sometimes it takes them a while to edit them.
But in the meantime, I want you to be listening to the Questionnaire as they drop new episodes every week right here for your ears, for your eyes. Be there.
Make sure you check out episodes every week.
You gotta listen. You gotta watch because we talk about some really cool shit.
With new episodes every week.
For your enjoyment.